I'm super excited, guys. Podcast number 9, The Real Side of Real Estate, where we keep everything real. We don't hold back. I'm with my co-host, Mr. Taco, Markia Taco.
What's up, everybody? I'm so excited. I'm so glad we've combined our podcasts, super excited.
Yeah,
super
man.
excited. Our energy is crazy, but the energy of our guest.
Oh, we might start merengue, salsa. She's a dancer. She knows how to
She's a
dance.
hip-hop dancer, bro.
Oh, my God.
Wrong one.
Learn your...
Without further ado, we are sitting here with Jessica Narula. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
So, should I say a mortgage specialist?
Yes.
Mortgage specialist.
Mortgage agent.
Mortgage
yes.
agent.
A real
Part-time
estate
dancer.
Part-time dancer. Real estate investor. I think it's like you guys have great synergy with each other too, and it's fantastic to see. To be honest,
Thanks. It's fun. You know what? It's
you guys are
fun.
a very cute couple.
He's taco and falafel.
Exactly.
I gotta get a falafel hat, man.
It's just fun having energy. You can't get a hat, man. Come up with your own thing. Everybody's like, Taco, your branding's amazing. How do I have, what hat should I wear? And I'm like, it's not about hats. It's about who you are and who you need to be. And then I try to help people with that stuff, but everybody wants to have a hat. They're like, how can I get a hat?
Falafel shoes.
Maybe,
Yeah, now we're
maybe,
talking.
maybe,
Right?
maybe a robe. Maybe a robe.
Get some
Prince of
Louis
Persia
Vuittons.
robe.
Oh my
Get
God.
some Louis Vuittons. Get them custom painted. Get two really an artist to do 2 falafels, and then write falafel on the other side.
There you go.
And then on the inside it'll say Manny, your realtor.
There you
Done.
go.
There
you go.
it
You're
is.
welcome, right?
There it is. Yeah.
So
branding.
Jessica, tell me. Number one question that's burning up. Everyone's talking about it right now. Seems like the rates are going to be coming down, huh?
Oh, I thought you were gonna ask her how tall she was. Sorry, go. Yeah, rates. Tell us about the rates.
I was like, I'm just touching 5 feet.
So she's lower than prime, right?
Prime minus 1.
almost as much as the fixed rate.
Oh my God, this
Jeez,
is true.
fixed rate. If you got a 5% rate, you're doing all right.
Yeah, you're actually. I'm pretty close to the fixed rates right now. So, honestly, people are saying a lot of things, and I feel like there's a lot of noise in the market in general, and it's always been right. It's not a new thing, right? It's never for sure. Like no one can predict it. The inflation is back up a little bit, right? So, not saying they're gonna go up in my perception, but they might hold for a little bit still, and then maybe third quarter I see it dropping a little bit.
You know what I heard? I heard another thing. If the war breaks out, they're saying about a war breaking out.
Oh, buddy,
This is looking crazy right now, Mark.
don't even tell me about the war stuff.
I'm scared, man. I'm scared.
I know. I'm scared for you. Look at you.
Look,
You're like 50 pounds soaking wet. I'm gonna have that. Me and Jess are gonna go defend.
I
this
might
country.
need that hard shell taco to save me.
Yeah.
The armor. What do you think I wear? It's a helmet. It's a helmet as well.
Like actually,
I might get some water, some
Guys,
canned foods,
Look,
like
I'm
bunker.
I'm glad I'm over the 40-year mark because I'm too old now to be in the battlefield. You know.
no. But I heard that there is a lot of rhetoric going out.
There's so
right
much
now.
happening.
I don't watch the news.
With that situation happening, we don't know. They might even do another rate hike.
I just honestly, here's my opinion in general. Okay, it was the same opinion when the rates were. Everyone was saying the rates are going up, and it's the same opinion if people are saying the rates are going down. I think people should evaluate their financial situation. Because people make money if the rates are going up or down, right? If you know where you stand, if you have liquid assets, like if you understand where your financial situation is, because even if the rates are dropping, if you're not financially stable, what are you going to do with the rates?
Makes sense.
Right?
Makes sense.
So that I think people forget in the noise they hear about whatever they're hearing in the news, the media, every realtor telling them it's a great time to buy.
Sorry. You know what? It is a great time to buy.
It is a great time.
Call me.
Can you come on the show more often?
But it is a great
No,
time.
it
actually is a great time to buy.
And that's the point, right? Like, I feel like if you know your financial situation, if you have like the ability to make that down payment, I actually do think it's a great time to buy.
There you go.
But if you're like already in like I feel like a lot of investors got into a difficult situation in the last year because they escalated so quickly and rushed into a lot of things. And I'm guilty of that too. So I'm not saying
I'm guilty myself.
And we're going through a cycle, right? It's the cycle.
It's the real estate cycles,
with your plan being on the low rates,
yeah.
Now your plan's gone to shit. So you just got to recover through that. And then you plan, like you're saying, like, doesn't matter as long as you're planning to where the rates are today.
Yeah.
If the rates are 10, then you got to make 11 in order to be making money.
So are we through the storm though? That's the burning question, because this was a storm.
Mentally, if you're out of the storm, you're out of the storm. It's on you.
Nobody knows the storm. It's gonna hit
feel
you.
like it's
look,
past.
dude. The
feel like
storm
it
is
too,
the storm, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day. I think,
agree.
Kind of like how she's saying. Look, it doesn't matter if the oceans are rough. Make sure your boat is well prepared.
Yeah.
If the oceans are calm, then you can like relax. That's it. You just gotta be
point.
prepared.
You
gotta take it as it is, and but plan for it, right? If you just walk out and not have a plan, you're gonna be in the shit no matter where the rates
100%.
are or what the economy is.
100%. But I've been seeing from my end bidding wars creeping back.
I see that too, honestly.
Bidding wars are creeping back in, and that's always a telltale sign of a warming or heating up spring market where there's optimism.
Yeah, there's buyer confidence coming back, right?
Yeah.
But I also feel like I was talking to some of the more experienced investors who've been doing it for like 20, 30 years, right? And they are in like a tight cash flow situation right now. And even they're saying, so we've seen semi-cycles in the last, like, I wasn't even born in the 80s, right? So, but we haven't seen a market like this since before the 80s. So most investors, no matter how experienced you are, they haven't seen this kind of market. We were on a 2-year continuous low. That has almost never happened.
It's actually a great opportunity
I agree.
now.
I agree.
If people have liquid,
yes,
it's a great opportunity to get something super cheap.
Yeah.
Mark, last 3-4 months, we were getting phenomenal deals in Hamilton. They're gone now. You can't get those deals. And I'm talking about November, October, December. Now you're looking at the prices. They've already jumped up.
Yeah.
But it's not advertised and it's not in the media as much. But people that are looking, the investors that are actively looking, they see it. They feel it. And the last couple deals I did, I was in a bidding war.
Yeah.
I was in a bidding war.
There's a bunch of bidding wars now, right? It's becoming the norm again, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
The conditions aren't as crazy as previous, but it's coming back. You're right. I think investor confidence is back. Things are kind of like they're stable, and that's all like people need to for things to know where it's going and not be like this as it was.
Yeah, it was wild.
They did 12 rate hike. It's unheard of. They did 12.
It was wild. You know what? Like, to be a realtor in the hot time, it's phenomenal. You wear a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, anything you touch yourself.
Now is going to be who's who in the zoo. Now you're going to feel who are the real mortgage agents, the real realtors, the real contractors,
the real G's.
That's really gonna show up.
Even the investors,
right now. Yeah, there's a bunch
100%.
of investors with their pants down. There's a bunch of agents that aren't making the commissions that they used to, and they're struggling. And that's because you could not make a mistake. It was impossible to make a mistake.
You're right.
Unless you were a contractor. Because the prices of stuff went up and up
So
and up
much,
and up and up. And then I was like, going one day to buy 2x4s, it was like $2. Next day, $8. I was like, whoa.
What? Yeah, and the budget kills, right?
That one time when the pandemic was at its height, I remember doing a flip at that time. And the price of lumber, like you were saying, whoa.
Yep.
It just went, whew. And people were buying wood and selling lumber.
Oh, yeah.
They were selling lumber.
I couldn't buy floor at one point. Like, I couldn't get floor.
Yeah.
Like, I could not get floor.
I'm not surprised.
And we do 10, 20 units. Like, my clients, like, get any floor. I don't care. I don't care what the price. Just get the floor because we need to rent these units. And
I got stuck with something like that, too.
I never thought I would not be able to buy floor.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my big suppliers. I don't shop at smaller distributors and stuff like that. Like, I buy from big companies.
Hey, no one thought we would run out of toilet paper either. So there was a lot of things.
That wasn't an issue. That was us overbuying like
that
a bunch
was
of
just
crazies.
weird. That was just weird. Anyways, but honestly, I got stuck in a few situations like that where the shipping was delayed, the budget from even though my business partner was a contractor when we were flipping, we went over budget so many times, and it wasn't like he wasn't doing what he needed to do. It's like you were saying, when supplies are $2, the next day they're $8. How do you predict that, right? And similar happened with rates. Like even when people do their numbers, they took a higher rate. Most people like highest they were going for is like 5, 4, 6, like around that part.
I remember like 2 years ago, 4 or 5% was unheard of. What
Exactly.
are you talking about? I got 3.65. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, that's on the B side, if anything, right?
Yeah,
it was on B side.
I
See,
think it's gonna be like gasoline. You know, gasoline was so cheap during the pandemic.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then it went up so high, and now it's back down like a quarter of the way, and everyone's like, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Gas is cheap.
Yeah.
I'm so glad gas is so cheap.
But you know what's funny? Right before the pandemic, if you look at the actual history of the rates, 3 to 4% has been the most consistent. It's the COVID -1, like 0.99. And I know one bank was offering, and I was like, I kind of saw if someone is giving money that cheap, it's just not gonna last that way.
Well, we're pre-COVID, we were around the 3.5%, 4%.
Yep.
So we're a little bit higher than that, but people got to understand these 2 years was unheard of.
Exactly.
It's never happened before.
Yeah.
So the people that never experienced the 10, 12% of the 80s and 90s, they'll never understand that. They've always seen lower rates.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're kind of a little bit above the pre-COVID, I would say.
Yeah.
But
the prime is still 7.2 technically, right?
Yeah,
So, but I do see when I'm seeing and talking to lenders on the residential side, especially, I see like prime minus more and more happening. So it was like prime minus 90, prime minus 95, and now I see prime minus 1. Like, again,
the fix is better, right?
the fix is better, but if there are still investors who want to stick to the variable because they still think it's going to be of benefit to them. But on the fixed side, you're saying, mid.
What do you think, variable or fixed? This is a very important question. Investors want that answer because they don't know, right? Should they tie into let's say 4.89? Let's say that's the best rate right now.
Yeah.
Should they tie into that, lock in for 3 years, or should they go with 7.2, hope for the best?
Here's the thing. What's your strategy? Is it a long-term hold? Is it a flip? Like if your strategy is to sell it, why would you pay the penalty of a fixed?
Well,
right?
say you want to keep it's an investment, a rental, you want to keep it.
I honestly also will assess the risk assessment because with variable, like you are, hope and prayer, right? If you are okay with that hope or prayer, you have that flexibility in your bank account and be like, I can take that little bit of a risk to see if the rates kind of stay, go up or down, I'm okay. But a lot of investors right now, they're like, we just want some consistency in our lives, some peace of mind, where if I know I'm going to get this rate, I am suggesting my clients, if they are going on the fixed side, to do like a 2 to 3 year term, not necessarily a 5. Because that still gives you enough flexibility where the market is going to start shifting in the next year or two, and like then you can kind of gauge if you want to continue with the fixed or not. But I wish there was like one general answer that's right or wrong, but
there's definitely not one
like
general
there's
answer.
no.
It's based on every individual's
Evaluate your goals.
Everyone's different, right? And it's a hard question for anybody to answer. A mortgage broker, a realtor. I got that question from a client last night. Manny, what do you suggest? I'm like, it's just like you said, what are you planning on doing?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I want to sell. And this is the situation. This is the sentiment. I don't know if I want to sell now or I want to wait for a year or two to sell. Because what's going to be more advantageous? We just finished the project.
In that scenario, though, variable wouldn't be the worst idea, to be honest, just because if they are going to then suddenly decide to sell in the next year, there are ways to get the fixed rate with less penalty. But essentially, if they are going to go fixed, the penalties are a lot higher. Yeah. So depends on the A side, B side. There's so many factors now, and there's so many monoline lenders that are offering products that actually are very friendly and gives you the balance of like the flexibility of the variable and like some kind of security of the fixed. But in that scenario, I would actually be like, if they're okay, the variable is not the worst option, just because they're still like, we don't know kind of situation, right? Yeah. Because then long term, it might be beneficial for them.
For sure. So when you're thinking about this, right? When you're thinking about the cost of renovations, this is a huge thing too, Mark. Well, we're going to be looking with investors on Saturday.
Yep.
And this is going to come up, Mark. They're going to say, hey, first they're going to say, Jessica, what rate should I get? Second, Mark, what do you suggest? What do you suggest in terms of a reno? Makeup? Like quickly do
Lipstick
the
on a
makeup?
pig?
Yeah, do the makeup quickly? Or should I go overboard? Will I get more rent? You know what I mean? Like, I get that question a lot too. Like, I don't want to go like cheap, and I don't want to go high end. I want to be right in the middle. But there is a big difference of right in the middle too, right? Like, we could do right in the middle that's like higher up, right in the middle, right?
Yeah,
like,
I call that scope creep, where they like, they start with a plan and then they just keep adding. Like, oh, maybe I'll just, let's go quartz, let's go this, and they look back and they're like, wow, we've blown the budget.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
you see that a lot, right, Mark?
All the time.
It's because they become emotionally attached to the flip then, right?
And that's the thing. Yeah. And that's what I try to tell my clients. Don't get attached
I've done
to the
that
property.
Too, to be honest, yeah.
Don't get attached to the property, because the minute that you get attached, it starts draining you. It starts draining you.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap anymore to do the renovations, right?
I set up with our sister company, Cabinets and Kitchens. They create like a 3D model of what your unit is going to look like, your spec, and then once it's built, then I'll start to build. Because I don't want to, like, I have some clients where we're kind of like, as we're going through, they'll be like, oh, I'll pick the paint like later on. Like, I want to have the plan in place, because then it's a lot easier to see the end.
I agree with you 100%. Right? I have done some projects for clients, and it's growing pains with all that stuff, and waiting for someone to pick paint, and you got the painters there, and you're waiting for this and you're waiting for that, and they don't understand that they're holding their own project up. Time is money.
For sure. But what I'm going to say, though, for renos today, I would say pre-COVID, you needed to be super high-end. Now, post, kind of like where we are today in today's market and situation, we have such a shortage of properties that you can rent anything pretty easily, right? So you don't need to go that crazy high-end approach where I see some people, they're like fancy doors, like you don't need it. You need to really think about like how long you're going to hold that property and how that's going to affect you, right? I would recommend quartz over laminate countertops. But if I'm not going to hold it for a very long time, then I'm going to put laminate countertops way cheaper. Or
next thing that I get a lot from investors is like, I want to put quartz on the backsplash. And I'm like, do we really need to go to quartz on the backsplash when it's a rental property? And they're probably not going to care.
No. And I think another thing I realized in my own portfolio too, location matters more than people think. Because if the location is not the greatest, no matter how high-end your renovations are, it's going to attract a certain audience. And 100%. I realized that because there was a conversation a few years ago where it's like, you do those renovations to attract the great tenant, but people forgot about the basics, whereas like the location matters. If it's in a shitty neighborhood, and like there's a difference between the up and coming and just not a good neighborhood, right? And no matter how great your renovations are in that neighborhood, you're going to attract a tenant profile no matter what.
Look, I don't know. Yes, I 100%. Location is important, obviously, and understanding where the cities are going.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, though, to imagine right now how much the world is transitioning because everybody's moving outward and everywhere, and then the cities are like scrambling to put in all these LRTs and transportation systems. Yeah. So it like what you're saying is true, but it's so hard to kind of know what's an up and coming neighborhood.
It's hard to gauge that.
It's very difficult because everything is moving around so much, right? Like
it's for me the location. I also mean because a lot of small towns like Sudbury, North Bay, Cornwall became popular as for investors. Yeah, it's the cheaper price point. For me, my perception is coming from more of those areas. Yeah, because it's like the bigger cities. You're right, where it's like at some point you're gonna be okay. Right?
So it's so funny that the strategy is so different when you're flipping properties, because I flipped properties for many years, and when you're renting properties.
Yes, exactly.
The properties that I flipped, in areas that I flipped and I gentrified, I probably wouldn't keep a rental.
Yeah.
But for areas that I keep rentals, you're absolutely right. It's got to be by transit, by hospitals, by schools. And the ones that are in good locations, they're never vacant.
Exactly.
They're always... rented out, and the tenants are always higher profile tenants. And the ones that are in, okay areas, then you got, different crowd.
Yeah.
But for flipping properties, you can gentrify pretty much any area if you get the price at a good price.
Of course.
It's completely different. Like, I flipped a property on a street called Emerald, and everybody that's from Hamilton knows Emerald. I remember...
I avoid that street, actually.
I remember investors saying, Manny, Emerald? I'm like, Emerald.
Oh, my God.
So we gentrified Emerald, where at that time people were not gentrifying Emerald.
Yeah.
Gibson, Stinson, like these areas are, if you grew up in this city of Hamilton, you know what I'm talking about.
I didn't grow up
I didn't grow up here either.
but I have renovated the crap out of the city. And
so you know these areas, Mark.
I've been around.
And they're gentrifying, they're changing, but it's a slow burn, right? It's a slow burn, and it takes time. And then there's other streets like Barton Street that are taking a little bit longer, right? But to flip a property that you bought for $200,000 and you flip it for $500,000 or $600,000, it's great.
Still works, yeah.
It's great. But to renovate it and hold it and hope that it goes up in value and you got a great tenant, it's a lot more riskier, I think, right?
We definitely flipped. Sorry, go for it.
Oh,
No, I was like, we definitely flipped in like bigger markets like Ajax, like Toronto, Etobicoke. So like our flips were prime markets because of the similar idea, but also we realized a little bit in those markets goes a long way when it comes to renovations because of how those markets run. So our flips did Burlington. We did a flip. Our flips there went amazingly.
Burlington's a great place.
Yeah. Clean those things up. You don't have to do much. Just make it look new again, like fresh.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of flips. That's great. How many flips have you done?
About 4 in the last 2 years, and then 2021 we did our last flip. We sold our last flip that was in Burlington, and then the market started changing, so we kind of stopped.
Burlington is great. The location, people love Burlington.
Yeah, and it was interesting because that property specifically, we were very surprised at the price we got because it was a semi-looking townhouse. We did immaculate renovations like feature wall, all of that, right? And still in budget. We were hoping maybe $950,000. We had over $1 million for that property, and it was just like, but 2021 was the prime time. It was, right? So it was just, and then the business partner I was flipping with, we both just decided to like start holding properties, and that's when Cornwall came into question, and like
Cornwall's like a long-term hold situation, right?
Very much so, and like I said, the tenant profile is interesting.
Tell us about the tenant profile, Mark. I want to know about the tenant profile.
I know.
Do you want to know about the tenant profile?
I've worked in some small towns, man.
Yeah. But you know what? In all fairness, my duplex, my townhouses were great because people there like square footage. So families and stuff were attracted to those places. And then I have a 5-plex there that's more apartment style.
So tell me a great story about Cornwall. Do you have any great stories about Cornwall?
So many. So many.
I just love the look in her face. Like, I know.
It's just traumatizing. It's so recent.
She's like reliving these moments in her head, and she's like, I don't know which one to tell. It's so scary.
I also was like, it's so recent. It's almost like bringing back memories now. Well, like I had a non-paying tenant for like a year last year. And then I had to pay him to leave essentially by the end of like the year. And that property, like he was like, had 2 dogs. So fine. In the beginning, what happened, this was like property.
Did you vet him properly?
Okay, so that's what happened. I didn't. No, I did. Okay, so this is what happened.
Wait, did you or didn't you?
Let me explain.
No, but before you explain, I just want to know if you did or you didn't.
I did. Okay,
but there's a but.
So I've gone through 4 property managers down there. I'm 4 hours away. Okay. The smaller units, it was easier to rent because I had like one person who's able to go in and show. When it's like a building, you need someone who can be there more consistently to show like different apartments. So I had this applicant come in. He filled out the application. It was fine. I sent him a property manager to do the showing. That unit was vacant for like a few months. My property manager decided to, without doing any kind of reference checks, income checks, anything, just sign the tenant. And I was like, what are you doing? We have to still call, we have to do income checks and reference checks. Because for all of my tenants, I take that on and I make sure it's all in my file, right? As like my precautioner. And then I also sometimes double call the references. And the property manager, they were supposed to move in December. The property manager, on the day they signed, without getting the first and last, gave them the key of the unit.
So did you vet the property manager now is the next
Yes. No, you know what's funny? They've put some amazing tenants in my other units. Like insurance tenants, families, their Facebook, like I found them on like our Cornwall Pays Facebook group. They had great reviews, came from another investor. The guy's an investor himself in like Windsor. I did. So I'm like, why would someone from the start, I never even received the last month. So I received $500 from them. Say the rent is $1,050, whatever. $500, so half a month. January 15th, they moved in. The property manager didn't even know they moved in. Because in the middle, they stopped responding to us. I was like, are they moving in? I was like, I don't know what's happening. And then I got 1 month's rent. And then that property, we put it on market. But that was before. But it was still on market. We found out through the realtor, and this is where the whole thing started. I think what people think there when it comes to sale, it's that they will have to leave. They don't realize it's a 5-plex. People want tenants in there. Banks won't finance them if the tenants are not there. So they started threatening people walking through, including the realtors that was showing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they had two dogs, like pit bulls. And they were like consistently barking. I had another tenant across him leave because he had kids. So after like months of like waiting for the landlord tenant board, date was in like March, right? And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I found someone who was able to like go do cash for keys. I tried that before, but there was like, they were so not responsive and like all of that. And yeah, so that was still recent. Literally left in December, so 2 months ago.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's recent. That's why when you see my expressions, I was like, do I want to go back there?
Oh my god!
He's gonna cry in the corner.
No,
later.
seriously, I'm like, oh my god, very
recent.
recent. And then that building is interesting. Okay, so I do believe in like what you put out and talk about all the time. It kind of comes into reality, but so for instance, I had a really good tenant now coming into the front unit. And he's like new to Canada, immigrant, great tenant, pays on time, everything's fine. And he suddenly messages a few days ago that he's like, I think I'm going to leave. I can't stay here anymore. At night, there's people trying to get into his unit because it's in the ground floor. And he's like, when I come home after work at like 1 a.m., I don't feel safe there. So it's like...
Is crime rate high in Cornwall?
I have no idea.
No, it's just like it's not high in Cornwall. It's like that's what I mean. Location matters. Okay. Location matters because, like I said, like apartment style matters.
So is that like the Emerald of Cornwall?
Not necessarily. Okay, you know what's funny though with this unit?
Small towns, man.
Small towns. It's small towns.
It is small.
Yeah.
Towns.
It is small towns
Because
it's 4 intersections.
They have nothing to do. Not that they have nothing to do, but like sometimes if there's like a shortage of jobs or like careers or things to do in the city, what do they do?
Just break into units, I guess.
Start messing around.
And
then you just slowly start to create.
No, we're putting in a full security system and like cameras and everything because it's not a bad location. That's the weird part of it. I think what it is, the rents are going up so high in Cornwall and the audience there is not able to match up.
Rents are going up.
Like I was doing a rent report for the presentation.
Sorry.
No.
It's jumping up every day.
It is, right?
Yeah.
But the
rents are going up in Cornwall. Keep going. Keep your story. Let's stay focused. Sorry, I messed that up. That was my fault.
I didn't even hear him. But like I don't know what he said. But like in general, right? The rents are going up, but the audience, local audience, is not able to keep up with those rents.
Oh.
So like there's a lot of new immigrants coming, which are able to keep up, and there's a lot of, because the location is actually great. It's an hour from Montreal, Ottawa, the U.S. border. You know, like it's a really good location. There's a Great Wolf Lodge now building there. So I actually still think if I was closer to Cornwall physically, I would have kept that fiveplex.
Oh, so you got rid of it?
No, I still have it, but I'm just like, I will put it in the market in the next year or so, right?
Oh, that's all right.
But like in general, I would have kept everything there if I was closer. Because here's another thing with smaller towns, finding the right property management is tricky. And I've talked to a lot of local investors. Most do in-house management there. Like there's not a lot of outside management.
Yeah, I had similar experience with that when you're dealing with small towns. Like if there isn't a good property manager or somebody that like understands what you're trying to do, then there's no other option. That's it.
Because you're physically 4 hours away.
You know, and that's my hesitance to do that. Otherwise, honestly, I'm thinking the States.
States make sense.
Right now, I'm looking at these numbers, Mark. Like the States.
Yeah, dude.
Like the kind of rent. And I'm talking about landlord states.
Yeah.
Forget about rents. The size of the projects you can buy.
Yeah.
And instead of buying a single family home.
We have a special guest next week coming to talk about that. But like I'm looking at some of the stuff, 88 unit buildings, 100 unit buildings for the cost of one house in
That's
Toronto.
what I'm saying. It's so cheap.
And like less red tape around the landlord tenant board, less red tape on the
Depending on the
builders.
state, depending on the
It's got to be a landlord state.
Ugly
Well,
states.
okay,
But
here's the thing.
mostly
I'm assuming
it's pretty
most
good.
investors are smart enough to know that there's a landlord-friendly state and not landlord-friendly state. And I'm assuming a lot of, at least on our circle, most of them are looking into landlord-friendly states, and the prices you guys are looking at, I'm assuming, are there as well.
We should definitely do a tour, Mark, of the states. I think that would be beneficial, just to see what's out there, because
I'm looking at Texas. I heard it's
Texas, Ohio's,
Florida.
big right
Yeah, Florida,
And,
certain markets.
You know, there's different markets. You got to look for the landlord states.
Yeah.
That we mentioned, and you know, there's a lot of good options. And if you're looking for what you're getting, even I had something on Instagram. The lady's like, "You're getting this in Vancouver for $3 million." It looked like a shed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
$3 million, you could get a freaking castle in Europe.
Yeah. Even in Texas, literally.
Oh yeah, in Texas you can get like a mansion for.
You could get a mansion and like for 400,000 if anything. Certain locations.
It's crazy. So Jessica, what's on the plate right now? What are you working on right now?
I'm actually very focused on the mortgage side of the business. I'm still managing my portfolio. We are, like, I have JV partners on the portfolio, so I've worked with JV and I've done VTBs on a lot of the Cornwall stuff as well. So right now, I'm focusing on the mortgage side of the business. I have a team that does residential, but I'm personally more focused on the commercial side. So storage units, warehouses, multifamily to a certain extent, but more full commercial, like office spaces, retail, and things like that.
Is that tricky, the financing for storage units?
No.
Is it straightforward or is it tricky?
I mean, anything commercial is tricky in the sense of like it's unique, right? Like no commercial project is the same. So there's different kinds of options available. Like
You don't base it on the income of the person though, right? For a commercial?
if it's like say a construction mortgage,
Yeah.
they will look at like the financials of the person because someone has to support the loan. There's no property making an income right now, right?
Yeah.
Your experience matters a lot, right? Like
What
how
about like a storage unit, for example? Say me and Mark find a storage unit. We want to buy a storage unit.
yeah. That
Are they basing it on the income of the storage unit, or are they basing it on Mark and I?
No, if it's an existing storage unit, they'll look at the financials of the existing storage unit.
Okay.
They'll look at the experience of the investors who are going to run the storage unit.
Okay.
Essentially, so like they
So
want
if
to
we're
know.
new doing this, then we'd be under the microscope kind of thing.
Well, if you're new, they would be like, just get a property manager. So a lot of actually just institutions might be able to be a good option for that, right? Because there's banking at like the residential level, and then there's banking on the commercial level. Even like the big five, oddly enough, are a lot more flexible on the commercial side, business
hear
loan
that.
side.
Because there's big money there.
Yeah.
I hear that. Like for the buildings, I hear Mark. It's a lot easier to get.
Yeah.
Big money.
It's
There's also like hurdle rates from my understanding. Like once you've accomplished a loan or a mortgage of that size, then like the next one and the next one's easier. And there's like kind of like windows of.
But there's now lenders who are your bridges, right? So they help you through the bridges. And then for me, I've started working with a project management company that is pretty well known in the industry. Banks love them. So when they see their name, if they're like helping you prep the pro forma, help do the projections, they are actually also, if say you buy something that's newly, you're just land, they help you communicate with the city, get the site plan approvals. They're literally, you're still in, like they're having a conversation with you to go through every step, but they're managing like
So they're consultants pretty much.
Essentially, and they're not taking equity, they're monthly payment, like consultants, depending on the project.
that's good.
So I'm working with, like, when I'm talking about commercial financing, I'm also like adding other avenues where it will benefit investors, because I do personally feel as investors, opportunities in Ontario specifically are more on the commercial side than the residential side.
I'm seeing that right now. Like you get to the certain point with residential and you're over leveraged, they say.
Yeah.
And they just don't want to touch you.
But also just red tape around it, like we talked about, right? Like landlord tenant board, even like conversions take forever, permits take forever, which I understand happens on the commercial side too, if you're doing a development project. I just think,
but
like,
it's more rewarding for the commercial side. Like,
yeah,
it's more bang for the buck kind of thing.
Also,
right?
then, like, if you talk about the media and the things we hear about landlords and things like that, it's like, why would I like go and push into a space where it's like not really welcomed by the government, not really welcomed by the tenants themselves in general, right?
You know what? If you vet people, I never listen to the media with any of that stuff.
Yeah,
they always
100%
overhype everything. It's not that bad if you do your proper vetting. And I've learned this personally the hard way.
No, I fully agree. Like, I have a property.
I think everybody has.
I have a property in Brampton, and my tenants are just beautiful. And like, I have the other townhouses and the duplexes that I was talking about. Fantastic tenants, fantastic, even in Cornwall, right? So that you're 100% right. What I mean is, like, why fight it at all points? What I mean is, like, sometimes there's a way to do like a path of least resistance.
Why go up the mountain? You can just slide down.
I don't know if that's the right reference, but
what you're saying, like, why, like, if you're gonna climb all the way, why?
But what if there was a mountain that you could climb, which was getting you bigger money, better profit, more consistency?
My thing with that is, first time investors, they can't go after these big things.
But what about, okay, have you guys ever, not ever, but like when you guys do the numbers for your residential rentals, if you guys don't mind me asking, what's your annual return looks like? With, like, say you're keeping it with the appreciation and the cash flow that you guys make, what does that look like for you guys?
So it's a lot different now than when I was doing mine.
Yeah, and that's keep the now in mind.
Like, when I was doing mine, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I was burning out all my money and some.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, I'm not talking too long ago, well, 2018, 2019, 2020, and starting in 2021, it was not bad when you're refinancing out, but now it's gotten a little bit more trickier with the rates being high. Obviously, it's making it more difficult. But if you have multi-units and the thing is, if you get a good buy, it's all about the buy, right?
Yeah.
If you get a good buy, you could definitely make it cash flow when the rates drop. Not right now, when the rates drop, right?
And
I don't. And single family and like less than 5 is not
my thing either. Touch.
Yeah, but you have to start somewhere. That's what I'm saying. Like,
so that's why I asked you for the return, right? Because in this market, I actually was looking at single family rentals in like good markets, like decent markets, like even Hamilton, right?
Single family rentals don't work.
Or duplexes.
At least multifamily.
So say first time investors though, they're thinking duplex, right? That's their first instinct. Although I've seen some badass first time investors who will jump right into the development multifamily because there's always partners available. You don't have to do everything alone. So that was where I was going with this. Even if you're, say, investing in like a REIT, a fund, your returns, 10 to 15% return annually, literally probably what you get in a duplex at a good location with appreciation.
So there's different investors that have different comfort levels. Some investors want to do the first one themselves. Some investors want to do a REIT. They're comfortable with it. Some investors want to do private lending. Some people want to do all three, right?
See, that's the cool thing about investing.
You can do
is that everyone, like, this is why I kind of like, not to shit on coaches, but I shit on coaches because
everyone's
these investors are new investors. I'm specifically talking about new investors. They come into the industry off of some ad that they saw, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna join this program and I'm gonna learn how to do it all, right? But then you realize you join this course, you do all these things, and they teach you how to buy a property, whatever, and you're like, I just want to be a wholesaler. That is the market I want to be into. Or, I just want to be a passive investor and a money lender. Like, there's so much to it that I think there should be like, a community that you can join and figure out the pieces and then figure out, because it's so vast. Like, honestly, real estate investing is so vast.
So the thing, I completely agree with you. When I started, I was looking for people to help me, and you're trying to find all these people that are experts in their field, and sometimes they don't get along, sometimes they don't know each other, sometimes
they're not even experts.
They're not even experts. They claim they are, right? Like, starting with the realtor, investment-focused realtor. Believe it or not, it's really hard to find.
No, I've been through it. Like,
it's really hard to find.
I couldn't find one for the longest time. When I found one was also questionable, but I've honestly only sold with realtors. I've never bought with I've only bought once with a realtor, and I swore off.
And that's the thing: investment-focused realtor, investment-focused contractor. Like, there's contractors that be like, buddy, it's not worth doing that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
And there's a contractor's like, hey, if I tell him to do that, I'll make more money. So who cares about what he wants? I'll make more money.
Which right? I think goes back to, in all of this thing, is you got to vet the people.
You do.
But you only, and then I think, like, we're all saying this because we've learned from our experiences, right? Like, we're all saying we need to, and I as a first time investor, I was there not too long ago. So first time investor, you hear so many things, like you were saying, real estate is massive. One thing, if I was to go back and, kind of understand like which way to go, because a lot of times it's also the shiny object syndrome, right? Like, you can do this, you can do that, you do this. I feel like, and I think we talked about, like, you're knowing your financial situation. I think it also comes back to knowing, why are you investing in real estate? Like, why is that a tool that you want to use to go somewhere? And
what's
where
your plans?
is
What's your goals?
Where
right?
where is it that you're trying to go? Because if your goal is to create a lifestyle, create funds, and you're still going to continue your 9 to 5, it's just extra, then you want to find passive sources, because a lot of times, otherwise, real estate is not necessarily passive. Like, even owning a rental is
owning a rental is not passive. It's
exactly, but that's the perception a lot of investors not too long ago were given.
You know who I blame for that? You know who I blame for that? These programs.
Yeah.
These programs, they get these people in these rooms, and they're all amped and hyped, and at the end of it, they're like, okay, guys, go out there and go get OPM, other people's money. My brother, my sister, if you come to me and you ask me for money, I'd be like, show me your resume.
Yeah.
What have you done?
I took a course.
You want me to invest my hard-earned money into you, where you're not tried, tested, and true.
Yeah.
You have not done any projects. So these programs are kind of based on what they're trying to sell you, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to actually get the money for themselves.
Yes.
And get you to do the running around to get that money.
And like a few years ago, these, like, now coaches are becoming a thing. Everyone's a coach. But like back before, it was like groups, right? There was a lot of different communities. And a big conversation, leverage was a big part of the conversation, right? Leverage. No one ever prepared for a market like this, where if you are leveraged to a point where you can't survive, then that's a problem. Like, I think there's this market, I think, made me personally realize there's a balance of the new school thinking of leveraging using banks' money, OPM, and also saving, having liquidity. Well, back in the day, people used to talk about, right? I think where you will find, I personally find, I think I will thrive is where it's a balance, where it's like, I'm leveraging to a certain extent for the right kind of deals, and then still have a cushion. Because I've seen some of the most successful investors right now in like a tight cash flow situation. Good thing is they're smart enough to still kind of figure it out. But these are investors not in the last 10 or 5 years, 20, 30 plus years of investing, right? And I think we were talking about this before. We just haven't seen this kind of market since a lot, like ever, before I was born.
So
Yeah, you're right.
The thing, you're absolutely right. The thing about new investors, they're very naive. They don't really know which way they want to go.
Yeah.
Because I remember being that new investor, getting books from the States and flipping and this. I don't know where and what I want to do to make money in real estate, but I want to make money in real estate.
Yeah.
So what Mark was trying to talk about earlier, which I completely agree with, is all these programs are giving you all these shiny objects and all these, like, you don't know, you're getting pulled and grabbed everywhere. I think that you definitely need to establish the right goals for yourself, and then find the team that could help you service those goals. Yeah. Now, how do you find that team? That's the biggest question, right? Like, how do you...
If you know your why, you'll find the right people.
So, like, stuff like what Mark has started with this Grow community. Like, I got to give him onus. I don't give him onus. He's my boy, and I love him. And he wears his taco hat, and I love that taco hat, and I love him. But I give him onus because he has seen the problem that we have in the industry. And the problem that we have in the industry is, where do you go to find your team?
Yeah.
Where do you go to find an investment-focused realtor, an investment-focused contractor, investment-focused broker, mortgage broker, lawyer? Like, where do you go to find all this? You have to have a team. You have to have the Avengers, we call it. And you know, we brought you onto the Grow Network. What do you think about that? What do you think about the Grow Network?
Honestly, I first of all appreciated you guys inviting me to join. And I think I've told you guys this before. You guys have, first of all, great chemistry with each other.
Thank
you. You guys make an adorable couple.
My wife thinks so.
We're brothers in a different life.
My wife and his wife think so.
My wife.
They're clarifying to have wives on there.
My wife's like, "What's Manny getting you for Valentine's?"
What did you give him for Valentine's?
A kitchen.
A renovation contract. But I honestly feel like I love that you guys are using AI with Discord, which is cool. You guys are also, like, when you guys started that community, it's still pretty new in a way where I love how you encourage members to go live, encourage members to share, encourage members to feel part of the community. Because a lot of times I find, like, say we go to certain events or coaching programs, there's like a hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
Right? Which is like, you're looking up to that person. You're looking up for that person to give you answers. I feel like you also understand that one person doesn't have all the answers. Hence why you guys are bringing in people from their fields who are experts in their fields to bring in, and then they're the ones to ask, right? Like, I'm not answering questions about renovations, and you're not answering questions about rates, or, like, I mean, in general, but, like, you know, you're not answering mortgage questions.
You're nailing it. You're nailing
right?
everything.
You're
nailing why we built this thing.
Yeah, okay. That's the intention that comes across, which is fantastic.
And we had you on with Nicole, and we were talking about mortgages, right? Nicole's another mortgage broker that we work with in the Grow community, and that was phenomenal. You guys gave a lot of information, and those viewers, they come back. They see us at events. At one of the events, the viewers like, "Hey, Manny, I watch your stuff. You're hilarious." I'm like, "Thanks, man. Instagram?" He's like, "No, Discord." I'm like,
"Oh, see."
Yeah, no,
I'm like, that was the first time I had the Discord. Discord? I'm like, "Whoa, okay." I get the Instagram a lot. I get Facebook here and there, YouTube here and there, but Discord. And I was like, and then I went to Mark. I'm like, if we could help one guy, we could help thousands of people.
For sure. But that's what's cool about being live. Like, we're live right now. Like, people are getting this data right now. They don't have to wait. But, like, Discord, you can interact with the person, right? Like, we try to make sure that it's not like you're saying you go and you're at an event and you're just, like, sitting there waiting for the opportunity to hopefully get a question in, right?
Yeah.
Like, this thing is so fluid. We have the
chat. And that's
channel.
the thing. It's tough because you want to network, but you only have 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you're rushing to go talk to someone, but they might have a lineup.
Yeah.
Right?
And in the beginning, I know you said I go to a lot of events. I oddly don't. I know you've seen me now at a few, but, like, the amount of time you asked me and I was like, I'm not going. Like, in terms of even just for content and stuff. For that reason, though, right? Yeah. I just feel like after COVID, I became all in. I was like, I missed the community. I missed people. Yeah, so I did go to a lot of events end of, like, last year. Also, because I was taking a little bit of break from the mortgage side because I was just busy managing the portfolio. And I kind of went back in and I was like, okay, I want to be surrounded by good people. I want to surround by myself with abundance and like people who are doing amazing things in their lives. And that's when I started seeking out different like networking events and met some amazing people, right?
And that's the best part of these networking events. I met Mark at a networking event.
I met both of you, right?
I mean,
so
if I was at an event and you didn't see me,
yeah, then you're really plastered.
It was a white event, and they told him not to wear the taco hat that time.
Oh my god! Actually,
I wear the taco hat.
Yeah, it was like I don't think you took it off. No, but honestly, like that's your branding though, right? And I think. Yeah, and it's like I also like that you guys are just having fun with it too. Sometimes real estate can be very serious.
Man, life is already boring enough.
Yeah, definitely.
Making money and making good connections, and like the bigger you get in any industry, it doesn't matter real estate or anything, it comes down to relationships.
I fully agree.
At some point, you know, when you're smaller, the prices might be like this, but as you continue to go up and become more successful and you're dealing in bigger rooms, the price is going to be negligible.
Your environments matter. Your environment matters more than people think.
Who you trust.
Yeah.
Who you're going to work with.
Yeah.
Who's going to actually help you. Who's caring about you because they see the long-term future of you versus just the fast transaction.
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm not much of a drinker or anything like that, right, either. So for me, it was just like after a point, the going out became a lot personally.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't have kids or anything, so I don't know how y'all do it. But like, I'm just like, I had to like prioritize myself, my health, my mental health, because I think as investors, we forget there's other aspects to our lives that are actually sometimes more important than just making money. Because money is a sheer piece of paper and a tool, right? It's always what we want out of that that matters more than the actual piece of paper.
Well, I focus on the passion of doing something.
Yeah.
And everything I do with a passion. And sometimes when we first met Mark, he's like, why are you going to this extent? I'm like, because I want everyone to know us.
Yeah.
I want them to be like,
he's always
these guys again.
It's
and we got something coming tonight. They'll be like, again? They did it again?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, these videos and the stuff we're doing, not only is it bringing awareness to these events, educating people, but it's having fun with it.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Having so much fun. And the last video we did, we went like overboard with it.
Yeah.
Like
we started
your overboard is actually
we
I
started
agree.
calling Manny the movie producer.
I feel like that's what he's gonna end up doing. I feel like that's just his
He missed
thing.
his calling.
I feel like that's. I mean, maybe that's like his calling now with like a combination of real estate.
realtor, movie director.
It could. You know what's interesting? I realized once I talked to like investors in general, like in the community, a lot of real estate investors, people in like realtors, like most people in this industry, have a creative side to them. I've met people who were musicians, dancers. I've met people who have like wellness centers and fitness centers, and they are real estate investors because I think we use this industry as a way to reach our freedom goals, right? Like to have that time and flexibility, but we all are passionate about our other passions as well, like that things we truly love. And I feel like that passion, even if it's not necessarily in a piece of land or property, that passion will always, in my opinion, make you successful because it's coming from a good intention.
100%. And that's why these videos, I put a lot of heart, blood, sweat, and tears into them. And I'll be straight with you with this. I'll be honest with you. I want it to be the best production that has ever happened. And when I get the first version, even the video guys, I'm sorry, video guys, I love you guys so much. I break them down. They're like, man, what are you doing? And I'm like, listen, brother, it's got to be perfect. It's got to hit. It's got to hit.
Even rewatching the scenes like on set, and he's like, we got to shoot this one again. We got to shoot this one. I'm like, dude, it's pretty good. He's like, no. It's not great. It's not great. I'm like,
see, movie director.
But that's the thing. Like that, I love to make people laugh, right? And, you know, just like Mark said, we are living in a life that everybody's so wound up, you know, with traffic, with stress at work, with stress at home, money problems, all this. But that 2 minutes of making someone laugh, it just relieves them of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like going into a cold plunge, giving your body a shock.
Oh,
right?
I love cold plunges. I'm obsessed with.
Oh, it's great. You got to try
Oh
it.
my God.
The
no.
dopamine you get from that.
It's insane. I've actually volunteered at, like, I do an energy exchange at ice bath and a sauna place. It's a wellness center with like sound bowls and everything. And that one day I go there is the highlight of my week. Because I've gone to a lot of retreats and stuff. I've worked on myself a lot in general.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. But it is most underrated thing you could do for yourself. For sure. I've done I'm huge into the breathwork space, the ice plunge, all of that. I went on January 1st to the Woodbine Beach for the ice plunge. I went to
that polar bear.
Yeah,
I watched that. I knew
these guys are crazy.
Hey, you gotta try it before you deny it. Try
you know
it.
Kyle Guthrow.
He
works with the.
Yeah, I think you know.
Yeah, he works closely with like Grant Cardone. He was at the You Name conference as well.
Oh, nice.
But we ran into each other at the cold plunge at Woodbine Beach on January 1st. Because I was like, I wanted to start my new year in the best way I could physically.
Freezing cold water.
My goal is to get Mark involved in some freezing cold activities.
You're never gonna see it.
No, the dopamine rush. You feel like you can conquer the world.
I know what it's like to be cold. I assure you. I was in the military for way too goddamn long in my life.
Mark,
that I know I'm not gonna get.
You're gonna try it. I'm gonna make you try it.
Now with tuning forks by your ear, sound bowls by your ear, it's a whole different experience.
Mark, we have a special present for Jessica.
We do.
We have a special present for her coming on, and she's gonna be the first one.
First
one that gets it.
Okay.
And
what are we talking about?
I would love for you to do the honors, my friend, Mr. Taco.
Guys, this is gonna be.
Oh my God!
A little.
So we came up with a code. We have a community called Grow Network.
Cute.
And I was like, what would be a great code? I'm like, a grow code.
Bam!
Oh my God. They're so cheesy.
So
why is that
there is no bro code anymore. There's a grow code.
There's a girl code.
Grow code. And
oh, that's so nice, guys.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you so much for coming
Honestly, it's
on.
been so fun. This has been probably the easiest interview I've done in a while.
Really?
This doesn't even feel like an interview. Just
have a conversation.
Just hanging out.
Honestly, even on our podcast, we
well, let's talk about that. You have a podcast.
I do.
What's the name of your podcast?
Brick by Brick, Redefining Success.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can they find your podcast?
On Instagram. You can find me on Instagram as well. And on Spotify, YouTube,
and you
RSS.
have a co-host too.
I do have a co-host. His name is Michael.
Okay.
He's a realtor and I'm a mortgage broker. We're both also dancers.
Wow.
So he actually teaches Afro and dancehall as well. And I've been doing hip hop and I've been dancing since I was a kid. So, but our podcast is actually not necessarily just real estate. We had someone in the real estate industry. We had an energy and mindset coach come in first, and then we have our future podcast. We've already filmed it, but there is a guy who does interviews around the city of Toronto about Toronto dating and just different things. So that's
cool. That's fun.
Yeah,
that's really fun.
Because for us, the reason we even named it is everyone's idea of success is different,
100%.
right? So for all three people, in my perspective and their own perception too, are successful, but it looks different for all three. Even if we just had three, it looks different for me and my co-host too, right?
But they all have passion.
Exactly. And that was the core of our podcast too, where it's it was similar. Me and my co-host were just having conversations. We're like, man, people will get so much value of just the two of us talking. And imagine if we have people on who we just enjoy talking to. And so that's why it's not necessarily just real estate. It's a full lifestyle podcast. We're bringing in people just to kind of have a fun, great conversation, different kinds of guests, different kinds of conversations. And then on the professional side, I'm working on creating a fund within the brokerage to help investors as well in terms of
that's awesome.
Creating in-house funding and all of that.
Oh, nice.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, because there's certain projects I was it'd be great, and there's different creative ways to get into it. So yeah, podcasts and the fun and the brokering side is definitely the three pillars right now.
Busy girl.
That's
Busy.
amazing. We're gonna add all of that information in the bio.
Yes.
of the podcast so they can get a hold of you. They can ask you about your podcast, ask you about the private funding, ask you how funny Taco and Manny are. And
I don't know if they want to hear that.
I
But
mean, she's on Grow, so she knows how funny they are.
I know. I don't know how I got into it. I'm kidding. I love them.
But thank you so much, Jessica, for coming on.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. It was a lot of fun.